For over a year now, I've not been on Twitter. There are loads of reasons I haven't bothered to log in for all that time, but the main one is that I now get to avoid every shouting match that comes along whenever there's an even slightly divisive game. And woofed, thank God I'm not on Twitter right now that Skyward Sword, the most divisive Zelda of all time, has been re-released in beautiful HD on the Switch. If you rewind back to the game's original release on the Wii and peruse the BitSocket back catalogue, you'll find a pudgier, pastier and spottier Joe telling you Skyward Sword is a great game after you get used to the quirks of the motion controls. Those quirks are still there a wee bit, but the game beneath them is even greater now. First up, I hate to get all digital foundry on you, but the bump up to 60 frames per second makes motion control swordplay so buttery smooth that you could spread it on your toast. Of course, if even that doesn't convince you to use the motion controls, then you could opt for the new stick controls instead. The right stick controls Link's sword swipes, and it works well enough, but you're missing out on the embarrassment of being a grown man waving a wee Joy-Con about and pretending it's a Master Sword. It's not just about the sword though. Skyward Sword is a game where physicality is built into every little interaction, from bowling bombs and aiming your bow all the way through to rotating keys into locks. Playing with the new, boring, I'm a big tough guy and motion controls are for wee VL's controls misses the whole point of the game, even if they work fine. The option's there, take your pick, but my pick will always be motion controls for Skyward Sword, no doubt. If you're one of the millions of people that played Breath of the Wild but didn't play Skyward Sword originally, you might have heard that Skyward Sword was the Zelda game that was so shit that Nintendo rewrote the Zelda rulebook to make Breath of the Wild. That's true, but it's unfair. Skyward Sword is an incredible game, but you have to be in the mood for it. There's no downtime here at all. Every inch of the world is a tightly packed wee challenge of skill and problem solving. I think that's what turned folk off the most originally, and it's a shame because there's a lot to love here. For one, even though the separation of dungeons and overworld is slim in this game, these temples are some of the best since Ocarina of Time. They're big and epic and ask you to think about overall layout instead of just a linear procession of micro-challenges, like the kind that Wind Waker and Twilight Princess had. And the bosses you fight at the end of each temple rank as some of the greatest. Seriously, the first time I fought Coloctos, I was shaking with just that feeling of sheer yes! You know what I mean? And let me tell you right now, Skyward Sword has a brilliant story to it. The stuff of legends, literally. Zelda is an actual character, Girahim is a brilliant villain, and Groose is, well, he's just the greatest. It's set up as a starting point for the whole Zelda timeline, but ignore that because the Zelda timeline's a load of shite. What matters is this is the story that keeps you wanting to move forward, with beautiful cutscenes and incredible music, and better voice acting than Breath of the Wild. And if you're thinking, Skyward Sword doesn't have any voice acting, you're right. It doesn't. Then there's the world itself. Skyward Sword gets a lot of flack for its lack of an overworld. The surface is too full of traps and tricks to really count, and Skyloft only has a few islands with anybody to talk to. But what a lovely place it is though. There's a dreamlike quality to soaring through these skies and effortlessly dropping in for a wee catch-up when you feel like it. We live in blessed times, folks. If you've got a Switch, you've now got access to Breath of the Wild, Link's Awakening and Skyward Sword. 3 completely different but equally important games in the Zelda series. That means there's a Zelda for all tastes, and we don't have to get bogged down in silly arguments about whether Skyward Sword is great or shite. It really is magical that a game as big and as special as Skyward Sword can be taken anywhere you go. If you do play it though, just promise me you'll play with the motion controls, eh?